Let me ask you something. When you pay fees to your coaching class, online edtech app or even a university, do you ever wonder, am I also paying GST on this? Most people assume education is a noble sector exempt from tax. But here is the twist. GST has turned education into one of the most debated, controversial topics in India's tax system. And you know what is shocking? Sometimes the same student sitting in the same class ends up paying GST while another does not, just because of how the institution is structured. So today, let us uncover these controversies one by one, and I promise by the end you will look at your fee receipt in a very different way. What is an education service? You see, under GST law, education service provided by an educational institution are exempt. Sounds simple, right? But here is the problem. What counts as an educational institution? A school or university recognized by law is exempt. A private coaching center preparing students for IIT or NEET, not exempt, taxable at 18%. An edtech company offering recorded lectures, taxable. The surprise? Same teacher teaching the same subject in a school classroom, there is no GST. And then on YouTube or a coaching center, 18% GST. That is the first big controversy. So where do we draw the line between education and commercial training? Supreme Court has often reminded us in cases like TMA Pai Foundation versus State of Karnataka that education is not just a business. But GST law seems to treat many forms of education as a taxable service. Next controversy, hostels, mess and ancillary service. Now here is where it gets messy, literally. Schools and colleges don't just charge tuition, they collect money for hostel, food, libraries, transport. And the controversy is which of this attracts GST. Tuition fees, exempt. Hostel and mess facilities, taxable unless bundled in a very specific way. Transport by school, exempt, but if outsourced to a private operator suddenly becomes taxable. Imagine this. Two students in the same hostel, one pays hostel fee collected directly by the university, another pays to a third-party hostel operator. The Madras High Court in Sri Chaitanya Educational Trust versus UOI even highlighted how this differential treatment creates unnecessary hardship for students and institutions. Even canteen services inside a school campus can attract GST because the government says it is a restaurant service and not an education. Now let us talk about the biggest revolution, online education. EdTech giants like Byju's, Unacademy, Coursera, are they teaching or are they providing a digital service? Under GST, online education is treated as online information and database access or retrieval service taxable at 18%. And for platforms like Coursera or Udemy, Indian students actually end up paying GST under reverse charge in some cases. Supreme Court has not directly ruled on GST and EdTech yet, but past judgments on education versus business suggest a clear tension. The government encourages Digital India, but its tax laws treat digital learning like Netflix. Even free webinars and demo classes may create GST liability if they are linked to a commercial package. That means your so-called free education might not be tax-free at all. Controversy 4. International education and study abroad. Here is another twist. What if you go abroad to study? Fees paid to foreign universities directly are outside GST. But if you pay an Indian consultancy or intermediary arranging admissions, GST applies on their service charge. So ironically, the Indian middle class parent saving for years to send their child abroad ends up paying extra GST to the consultancy and not to the foreign university. The Delhi High Court has been flooded with writs challenging how GST burdens students and families in this cross-border transaction. It is a grey area and litigation is ongoing. So let us step back. What do we see? Education is supposed to be a right and not a luxury. Yet GST has created layer upon layer of confusion, schools exempt, coaching taxable, hostels uncertain, EdTech treated like entertainment and study abroad caught in the middle. The Supreme Court has repeatedly said education cannot be treated like trade or business, but the GST Council seems to be walking a thin line between revenue and welfare. Remember, knowledge of law and tax is not just for experts, it is your right. If you found this useful, subscribe, share it with your friend and check out my other videos where I decode more tax and legal controversies in plain language. And tell me in the comments, should education in any form be taxed at all or should it be completely out of GST scope?